with R's Garage. In this video, I'll be working on the Team Associated B7 Bag 1, so let's get started. Be careful opening up the hardware bags so that you don't lose anything. There are some very small set screws, so you don't want them rolling off the table. Alright, so all the bags are open. We're going to need four 4x7 by 2.5 ball bearings. Those are probably going to be the smallest ball bearings that are in the kit. So there we go. And then we're actually going to need another set of four 4x7 by 2.5. So let's grab those as well. And the rest we can worry about later. So with the rest of these bearings, my plan is to remove the seals, clean them, and lube them up in the manner that I typically do. So I'll put a link in the description below on my method for that, and I'll try to put a card up here as well, so you can just click on that. All right, so let's get these parts off the parts tree. So I would highly recommend getting the aluminum bell cranks, which are these pieces here. They're the same as the B6.4. However, they're on back order and out of stock everywhere. So I'm just going to use the plastic ones for now. And then when they come back in stock, I will get those upgrades. All right, so first things first, we need to realize that there is a top and a front portion of this piece. So you can see here that it does say top, and this is going to be the front on this side. So we're going to need two 8mm ball studs and two 1mm washers. So we have our 1mm washers and our 8mm ball studs are going to be these two right here. Additionally, I would recommend using page number 3 in the manual to check your hardware. So this is the 8mm ball stud, and you can just match it up, and it's 1-to-1 size, so make sure that you use the correct hardware. So I'm going to take a 2mm Allen, and we're going to install this from the front side. So that being said, you see top right there. We're going to install it like so. And you don't need to over tighten it. Once you feel it snug up, it's good. Well, you are going into plastic, so you don't want to strip it out. There we go. We can go ahead and install 4 of the 4x7 by 2.5 bearings, and all I'm going to do is just press them in. And one thing to know, I like to have the blue seals visible, but that's just personal preference. So we can set this aside now, and we can install the 4x7 by 2.5 ball bearings in the bell cranks, just like so. Now we're going to need our steering hat bushings and 2 M3x12 button head cap screws. So those are our button head cap screws. These are steering hat bushings. Additionally, we have another set of steering hat bushings. So we're going to use, these are long. We're not going to use these ones right now in this hand here. We're going to use these ones here that are a little shorter. So the way that we're going to install it is top is facing up. We're going to install the steering hat bushing the short one from the bottom. Then we're going to install the M3 by 12 button head cap screw like so. And then we're going to install this bell crank, the one with the 2 holes in it, on this side here. Okay, we're going to do that side first. And we're going to install that screw in this hole right here. Yeah, once you feel it snug up, it's good, and make sure that everything moves nice and free under its own weight. So now we can do the same thing for the other bell crank. We can install the short bushing, install the M3 by 12 screw, and then install our bell crank on the other side. If you're installing the aluminum ones, which I do highly recommend, do apply some blue Loctite so these screws don't back out. All right, so this bell crank does not want to move freely, so I'm going to go ahead and back it out and see when it does, and then I'm going to leave it. All right, everything moves nice and free. There's no noticeable play in there. So now we can grab our 5mm ball stud and we can install it in the bell crank in this hole right here. And once it's shouldered up, it's good. Now we can set this aside for now and worry about the front ball stud mount. So we're going to need 2 of the 10mm ball studs. Those are the longest ones that we have, and 2 1mm washers. So just go ahead and install the washer on the ball stud, and we're going to install this in the middle hole according to the kit setup. Okay. So this part is new. You can see it's much more narrow than the B64. Plastic quality looks pretty good. Pretty excited to see how this car runs. So this is new to the B7, is the way the sway bar mounts to the front ball stud mount. So this is a 1mm roll bar. So we're going to take one of these collars and we're going to take the smaller diameter here and put it on like so. And then we're going to take the M3 by 3 set screw and install it from the bottom, is what it's saying to do. So like so. So it looks like what we're going to do now is we're going to set the sway bar in place. We're going to take the other collar and install it. And what I want to do now is I want to try to center it as best as I can. And I'm going to try to ensure that the set screws are facing the bottom. And you don't want to over tighten these set screws because you can end up bending the sway bar. So just make sure that once it snugs up, it's good. And make sure that it can rotate freely. Mine is a bit too tight, so I'm going to back these collars off just a tad to make sure that it can rotate freely. Okay, so there looks like there's some flashing right here where the collar is supposed to rest on both sides. So I'm going to see if I can sand that down to get it to rotate a little smoother. I think that's pretty good. I think once there's weight added, you can see it kind of moves under its own weight, so I'm gonna call that good. There's a little bit of side-to-side play, which is probably good, so that way it doesn't bind up and it'll move under its own weight. Okay, so now we can install our steering bell crank assembly onto the ball stud mount. So depending on the caster inserts that we're going to use, there's a steering chart on page 5 right here. So I'm going to go ahead and look ahead to make sure that I'm installing it in the correct position. It shows to install the steering bell cranks in the high position. So it looks confusing in the manual, but I believe that it's saying to use the plus 2.5 caster block insert. So that's going to give us total 25 degrees, which will be the high position for the steering. So how I got that was looking at this chart. Our bulkhead that we're going to use, the kit setup is 0, so we're going to be in this region here. The caster insert we're going to use is the 2.5. The chassis is 22.5, that's not going to change. So our total insert is going to be 25 degrees. So that says that we need to use the high position. So we installed these steering hat bushings on the bottom to move these steering bell cranks to the top. Now, if we're in the low position, we want to put these on top to lower the steering, and that's for bump steer. So let's go ahead and install those. So I'm just installing it from the bottom of the bell cranks, like so. And then we can just kind of set that on there. And we're going to need 2 M3 by 16 socket head cap screws, the 2 that are left, and install these into the ball stud mount. Alright, so all I did was snug it up and it moves nice and smooth under its own weight. Okay, so it doesn't say anything about installing the end pieces to the sway bar, but I'm going to go ahead and do that so that way I don't lose them. So all I'm going to do for now is install these end pieces, and I'm just going to make it flush with the end of the sway bar. And again, I'm not going to over tighten it so I don't bend the sway bar. So there we go. You can see it moves under its own weight, nice and free. And so does the steering bell cranks. So that's it for bag 1. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe if you did. Let me know down in the comments if you had any issues, and I'll do my best to help you out if I can. Stay tuned for the next video, which is going to be bag 2. Looks like we're going to be installing this onto the chassis. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next one.